Salarpuria Sattva. Trust, it's what we build. Presents the Realty Debate with Niranjan Hiranandani.
If there's a silver lining in Indian real estate, it has to be the demand outlook of commercial and office real estate. After languishing for several years, it now seems to be on a path to recovery. What's driving India's office space demand? Is the recovery limited to office space alone, or is it spilling over to other commercial spaces like retail and malls? What about emerging new trends like warehousing, which is driven by India's booming e-commerce market? Are these here to stay and drive demand for a different sort of real estate? Or is it just a passing fad? We have India's top industry voices today to give us the answers. Welcome everyone to the Realty Debate. I'm Anisha Natarajan and I'm joined by Anshul Jain, Managing Director, India, Cushman & Wakefield; Amit Grover, National Director, Offices Business, DLF, here in the Delhi studio; from Mumbai, Niranjan Hiranandani, CMD, Hiranandani Group and President, Naredco West; and also Ambar Maheshwari, CEO, Private Equity Funds, India Bulls Asset Management Company Limited. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Before I deep dive into the discussion, here are some figures which tell you that there could be some recovery. Approximately 11 million square feet of prime office space absorbed in Q3 2016 across the leading cities in India, which is the highest absorption recorded in the past 10 quarters. Now, what does this translate to in percentage terms? The quarter recorded a growth of 9% on a Q-on-Q basis and 14% on a year-on-year basis. This is from CBRE figures, but Anshul is here. Let's find out. Anshul, so your report, the one I got, was only for the first half, which actually didn't stack up so well compared to 2015. What are we then saying? I mean, are we on the path of recovery in office space?
We've absolutely been on path of recovery, and it's been going on for, I think, about last 7 to 8 quarters. So 2015 saw record absorption. The first half of 2016 definitely was slow. But with a lot of demand which was kind of backing up and not getting concluded for one reason or the other, you saw a flurry of those getting concluded in the quarter 3, which therefore resulted in a huge blip in quarter 3. But from an expectation perspective, if you look at 2016 and overall absorption figures that we are expecting in 2016, they're pretty much likely to be same or around the similar kind of numbers as 2015. But don't forget that those numbers itself was a big jump from the average of previous 3 years. So from 2012 to 2014 were real dire years for commercial property. 2015 was a great year. And the question was, is that just a blip or is that a trend which is going to continue? The 2016 figures are proving that the recovery in office market was just not one-off in 2015, but it's definitely a trend going forward.
Okay. The trend, though, is stable, isn't it? I mean, even if you end 2016 at 2015, it's stable. So how are you looking at it? The excess supply has been absorbed. Amit, come in here and tell me, I mean, what has been your experience that there was a lot of excess supply? We talked about it all through 2013 and 14 and even 15, in fact. So are we saying that the excess supply is now almost done with?
Yeah, surely. So I think from 2011 onwards till 2014-15, the excess supply has been reasonably absorbed. And we saw a consistent demand in the last 3 or 4 quarters. Interestingly so, we also saw a trend which is very much driven by the qualitative factors, which means how the employees are coming to the work, how they're commuting, how their overall experience around the workplace is getting driven. And the employers today are completely changed in their thought process. They want to be scoring as the best employers in India and the best employers globally. So they want to choose the workspaces which make them qualify, on all those parameters. So we've seen a lot of global captives looking for centralized locations. For example, the Cyber City in Gurgaon, we've seen a rental price trend improving in the last 3-4 quarters. We've seen
how much? By how much, Amit?
It's about, we've been doing consistently about 8 to 10% in the last 3 years.
Okay.
And we've seen even at that price point, the companies are able to see more value out of it because we kept on increasing the value proposition. So rapid metro, for that matter, which comes to the cyber city, is seen as a preferred mode of
All right.
transport.
So we'll come to all the good things that Cyber City has to offer and all other DLF commercial spaces a little bit later on this show. Let's look at the big trends right now. Mr. Hiranandani, what's been your own experience of the markets that you're present in? Can you confidently say that all the excess supply is out of the market, and even if you're able to maintain 2016 at 2015, next year you could see at least a 5 to 8% growth?
I have no doubt about it. This has been an extraordinarily good year, both for our company and the neighboring areas in terms of commercial development. I think a large amount of things have been absorbed by commercial offices, corporate offices, IT companies, data centers, small offices. So we've seen, and also some retail. So I think a combination of commercial has hit a good time for a wide range of activity, much unlike what was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, when I think the commercial was really looking and having a very downward trend. I think this has been completely changed. It has moved on an upward track. We are absolutely looking at good times in terms of commercial sales, and this year also it doesn't look as if it's slowing down. So I think overall the commercial end in the Mumbai region market has been extremely good, powerful, and is continuing to grow. But the growth in the peripheral areas are much, much higher, because people are willing to move out in order to rationalize the rental costs in the Mumbai region.
Amber, what's your own reading? All the gentlemen here are saying that the worst is behind you, and from now on, at least your trajectory till new supply comes in should be comfortable for commercial and office real estate.
So I agree with Mr. Hiranandani completely. I think there is a tremendous amount of growth that we are looking at in commercial segment. And I also, agree with what Anshul said earlier, that while 2016 may be pretty much at a similar sort of a number as we saw in 2015, but if you look at the composition and if you look at some of the constraints that commercial office space has at this point in time, I mean, mind you, for the last 4 or 5 years, there was very, very little concrete that was put into commercial office in India. And therefore, there are supply-related constraints as well. So, if you look at Bangalore, for instance, there is just zero supply. There's no supply, ready supply for people to move in, and that is constraining the occupation. And that has actually, in a matter of, in a way, sort of impacted the demand, and which is why we're seeing a constant sort of a number. But I think, in my view, going forward, over the course of next 3 years, commercial office space will do exceedingly well, much better than residential in my mind. And I think, 5 to 8%, in my view, would be slightly conservative, Manisha.
All right.
I think it'll see a much higher growth than that as far as commercial real estate is concerned.
So one is, okay, when we say growth, we're looking at rental growth, isn't it? Rental yield growth? Is that the number that we're looking at? Okay, all right. Or just demand. Anshul?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Both of them are, I think, related, if you look at it, Manisha. Rental growth comes on the back of volume growth.
Okay.
And we've seen consistent volume growth over the last 2 to 3 years now. And in pockets, we've also seen rentals gone up.
Let me come to the other trend, because it's important for viewers to know what we're discussing. Let's look at demand and where it came from. So it was led by Bangalore, that I think everybody will agree. 24%, followed closely by Hyderabad at 17%. This one was a dark horse waiting to explode, and now that you know that Google's going there and IKEA's going there, clearly there'll be a couple of more multinationals which will look at that city, because it's an inexpensive city when it comes to office space. Mumbai, though, also had a 16% growth, and perhaps not central Mumbai and the peripherals, and we'll come to that. How did Mumbai, despite being the most expensive city, not just in India, but in Asia Pacific, still managed to get that kind of growth? Followed by Chennai, which was again a very, very big surprise. Maybe it was back on the back of very poor numbers year before, and Pune at 13%. NCR did not feature in the top 5, and we're talking about Q3 2016 alone as of now. Surprisingly, though, if you look at the longer trend and take 2015 as a whole and take an average of 5 years, then Gurgaon came out as the best city for growth in office market. So these are some of the figures which are a little bit let's say, surprising. So let's get Anshul to decode them. So Anshul, let's start with Bangalore. Bangalore seems to be, I mean, I meet any commercial or office space person there and they have these beaming smiles on their faces, right? I mean, whether it's Raj Menda or it's Jeetu Virvani, they can't be happier at this moment. So will Bangalore, I mean, is it really a question of just demand far outstripping supply?
Bangalore's been darling of the office market. It's been commercial office space, first led by IT, ITS, then really Flipkarts and Amazons of the world really drove that market very hard. And it's got a certain momentum. But what's happening right now is, if you look at Hyderabad's posing some serious challenge to Bangalore. Much better infrastructure.
Right? It's a big contender, even in infrastructure and pricing, no?
Pricing, exactly. The second bit, we talked about Mumbai, right? And what's happened in Mumbai is the Thane-Belapur road has emerged as the dollar per square foot per month market. Now, for as long as I remember, the IT space, the back office, they love dollar per square foot markets, right? So Bangalore back in late 90s was...
Come on, decode it. I'm a journalist. What is this dollar per square
Bangalore
foot?
back...
First of all, we are talking about rupees here, but what does it mean?
Yes, the rents in the IT space have maintained $1 per square foot per month, right? Right from late 90s. When dollar was at 35 rupees, Bangalore was at 35 rupees a square foot per month. When dollar today is about 65, 70 rupees, Bangalore is about 65, 70 rupees. Hyderabad slightly cheaper than that. Thane-Belapur road is slightly cheaper than that. So Thane-Belapur road is today at about 50, 55 rupees, maybe even 45 rupees per square foot per month market. And it's a fantastic place to be in, right? You're in the middle of, you're kind of in the middle of Bombay, Pune development belt. You're, stone's throw away from the Bombay airport and so on and so forth. And it's emerged as a fantastic opportunity, an alternative opportunity for corporates and IT and back office players to go and work in that area. And that's a trend which has, which I think will buckle the trend of South India. Because if you look at the 3 South Indian markets today, they're becoming expensive because all 3 of them are less than 10% vacancy. And when the market hits less than 10% vacancy... So you're talking about
Chennai, Bangalore and Hyderabad, right?
Okay, they're hitting less than 10% vacancy, which means that's very difficult to find space and the rents will shoot up.
So you're saying then that's the reason why Thane-Belapur wins? Or is
exactly. That's the way, that's the reason why Thane-Belapur wins. That's the reason why outskirts of Pune, Hinjewadi, etc. will win. And last point you made was about Gurgaon. Yes, over the past 5 years, I think the infrastructure development in Gurgaon, the metro connectivity and everything else that Amit was talking about has brought in more and more people in relevant areas of Gurgaon. If you talk about Greater Gurgaon, the vacancy is still very high.
Okay, so Amit, I'm going to toss across to you. So, but somehow Gurgaon seems to be losing out now. And is it a question of not enough grade A office space available, or is it just the dismal infrastructure of Gurgaon? What's going on there?
So I think Gurgaon, in all fairness, started from call center market per se. Over the years, the market has completely been replaced by high value proposition, which is, as today Gurgaon is completely competing with Bangalore in terms of analytical resources, in terms of financial back offices of BFSI and others. So Gurgaon went through from a transition of a call center market to a high-end market.
Okay.
Now what's happening is, it's important to observe, the recent trend of last 2 years has been all high-end business. And what Gurgaon today is offering is a combination of high-end talent doing high-end business, clubbed with, as Anshul rightly said, a grade A infrastructure. Now, where else in a city where you can get from an airport to a grade A business district, in a 20 minutes time,
right?
I won't name that.
How much vacancy is there in Cyber City now that
you'll be surprised.
So hard selling it on the show?
You'll be surprised. We start a year at 90%, 98% occupancy rate. We end the year at 99% occupancy rate.
Amit, you don't need to talk about Cyber City anymore. Let's talk about other markets outside of Cyber City.
At the same time, now we're putting in new office development. We're just starting a grade A platinum LEED certified development bank at the Cyber City area, which is going to bring in the new set of clients there. We had launched 2 years back Horizon Center, which is pretty much occupied. So the Gurgaon trend has been a combination of captives, new captives coming in and growing. Then second, also a set of Indian corporates and the multinationals who've been consolidating for office spaces.
So, Mr. Hiranandani, so Thane-Belapur, I think that's what you meant when you said outskirts of Mumbai. And well, you've got a very large presence there. But what about Chennai? I mean, I'd like to hear from you what your own summary is, because at some point we'd actually kind of written off that market because of the lackadaisical approach of the government, you know, infrastructure, at least on the OMR side, not keeping up with the kind of office space demand which was there. So how do you sum up that market now for us?
I think that 2017 will see a pickup in the Chennai peripheral areas tremendously. You're going to get also a secondary effect of the industrial position, especially in the automobile, glass and other sectors which have come up in the other side of Chennai. So commercial on that end will also start picking up. There'll be, of course, the usual point where rationalization, as we said, the price points which took place in Thana, Belapur, Powai, and also in the area of Panvel. So I think if you look at that part of it, the same thing is going to happen in the case of Chennai. So you will see that happening.
Amber, sum it all up for us. I mean, there's REITs that we keep talking about. There's new trends like warehousing that we keep talking about. But take an hourglass and tell us, like, next 3 years, it all looks good, or there are going to be some blips, there's some headwinds that one must be prepared for.
I think in the short term, Manisha, it all looks good. Over the course of next 3 years, I'm very, very bullish on real estate, particularly commercial real estate. You mentioned REITs. I think we are going to see the first REIT very quickly. That would set the tone for the balance, players in the market or participants who are looking at getting out their commercial real estate in the form of a REIT and so forth. So I think that is something which, I'm very, very bullish on. I think compared with, the interest rate scenario, the cap rate compression that one is looking at over the course of next 4 to 5 years, REITs will become a pretty vibrant market very, very quickly. On the warehousing and logistics front, I think e-commerce predominantly will drive it. In my opinion, warehousing and logistics is pretty much where commercial office in India was way back in 2002 to 2003. It's really gearing up. Over the course of next 10 years, we're going to see a huge amount of activity in this particular space, and this space will really, really shoot up over the course of next 5 to 7 years, just like office did, say from 2004 to 2008.
Anshul, would you like to conclude on some of the new trends, and would you also take NCR, Mumbai and Bangalore as your top picks?
I would definitely, include Pune as well, just because of the infrastructure development between Mumbai and Pune, and its ability to offer that, 50 to 60 rupees per square foot per month from a rental perspective, and also to Amber's point, its ability to offer the 5,000 people Amber is looking for his kind of investee companies and the clients that he has. So that's number one. The second thing that we would see as change which is coming through in the next 10 years perhaps, or even quicker.
Are you excited about warehousing?
See, warehousing is a very exciting sector just because of the implosion or explosion in the retail. And with the GDP growth in India, with all the consumption-led spending that we are going to be seeing, clearly the need for warehousing is there, but it has to get coupled with road development. The current minister and the current government is doing well in terms of road development because...
So you're saying early days?
Early days, areas closer to city, the land is simply too expensive to support warehousing rent, so it has to be further out, and therefore the road development needs to take place. On the commercial office sector, one big mega trend we could see in the next 5 to 10 years is the emergence of co-working spaces, which is already happening.
Of course,
what
absolutely.
could happen is that we could see a hotel-like environment where today we go and lease a room from JW Marriott or from Hilton and we don't know who the owners are. In 10 years' time, my bet is that the co-working space will be the operator that we will be talking to as tenants in terms of leasing space, whether short-term or long-term. And the developers, owners, institutional owners will be in the background who will focus on development and management of the property as opposed to operationally leasing the property out. So that's a mega trend that we need to watch out for.
All right, interesting. Gentlemen, I'm going to conclude that I think we've covered all bases here, but good to know that some part of real estate business in this country is actually looking optimistic. We have a panel which is completely in agreement that look, next 3 years. All right, Mr. Hiranandani, go ahead. I know you want to make a point, and the last word to you, sir.
I think we have one more byproduct which you mentioned about, which is warehousing. But we are looking very, very strongly in setting up an industrial township in Pune. And we think that the opportunity of creating, with the Make in India happening, an industrial township with warehousing and logistics to be added on, to be an interesting phenomena which is likely to happen. So we are betting on that quite a lot, and we plan to start that off in the first half of 2017. We think there's a lot of it. And of course, we also have alternative price points, which we talked about, which is going to be lower price points, which would be in the range of 35-40 rupees at Panvel, where railway stations are coming up across the roads and stuff like that. So that area, rationalization in terms of increase of business in the MMR region is going to pick up also.
All right. I think we're going to finally conclude, but this is a very interesting point that you've added, which is industrial townships along with logistics and warehousing with this Make in India new trend to catch on to, and of course co-working spaces. So good news ahead for at least commercial office space in India, and hopefully that will sooner than later pull the residential market up as well. Stay with us. We've got another part of the debate coming up. We've been talking about the terrible quality of air that Delhiites are choking on, or NCR is choking on. Well, we're choking on something else too, which nobody is yet talking about, but it's also a very clear and present danger, which is waste and solid waste, the piles of garbage which is collecting in every corner of large cities of India. Stay with us.